Hi, my name is Logan Newman. I like to make jigs. I make jigs for all sorts of things. This is one of the ones that I made. This is my jigsaw jig. You can see that it just attaches and holds a jigsaw in place so I can use it on my table. Let me move this. What I'd like to talk to you today about is making a holder for a sander. Now, I have a couple different sanders, and I made this one a while ago, and this is great for sanding small pieces. However, I have a new sander that this machine does not fit. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to use this piece of plywood that I bought from Home Depot to make two different jigs. I'm going to show you how to do that and the tenoning jig. This is a cheap piece of plywood. When you look at the plywood, look for pieces that are in good shape. If you look through their bin, they have some that are really beat up. This is a good piece, so I'm going to use that. Making this jig requires several pieces of plywood. I bought a 24 by 24 inch piece from Home Depot, but I probably could have gotten away with a 12 by 12 for both these jigs. First thing I did is I cut a 6-inch strip. This will give me all the pieces I need for the sanding dock. One of the things that was helpful was using that micro jig push block. Micro jig has lots of safety equipment for the table saw. The first piece I cut off of that 12-inch strip was a 6-inch by 12-inch piece, and now I just cut off a 2-inch piece. For safety purposes, I used a table saw miter gauge to cut the cross pieces, and now I'm cutting two pieces at 1 3/4 inches wide. So the base is the 6-inch wide by 12-inch long piece, and the stop at the top is 6 inches long and 2 inches wide. Now I'm going to cut a curve in that, or just sand a curve into it, and I'm going to use my oscillating spindle sander. I'm going to use the end of it and allow that to cut the curve. I'm going to come back and check, and when I see that it's not enough, I'm going to go back and sand more off of it to try and get that a nice curve that'll fit the top. So now that I have a curve that I think matches the top and I like, I'm going to use Titebond glue and their instant CA glue, the instant bond. And I'm going to put a little bit on each corner, and I'm going to spray the piece where it's going to attach to. This eliminates the need for nails or anything, and it'll hold it while the actual glue dries. You can see putting that piece on, just going to organize, and watch how quickly this is dried. Done. The next part of this is figuring out the side pieces that are going to hold it in place. Now that's sort of something you got to figure out for yourself. In this case, I'm going to do 5 inches, which is going to go right up to about the midline. So I'm marking these two pieces together. Those squares I have are from eye gauging. They're pretty nice. So once I have them cut, I'm going to come back and see how it holds on. Due to the angle of the machine, it's not going to fit perfectly in there. So I'm going to trace a little bit and go and cut that down. I'm going to do it a couple of times until I get a good match, a good size fit that I like in there. But you can see that I'm basically just scribing the edges of this so I can get it to fit in there, and then I'm going to go back to my sander. I'm just going to clean up the edges, get a nice little curve in there, and once I have a curve I'm happy with, I'm going to go back and check fit again. Once I have the fit down to the way I like it on one side, I'm going to use the Titebond glue and CA glue trick again. Make sure that you pick your machine up before you spray the accelerator that causes the instant glue to dry immediately, because you don't know how it's going to interact with the plastic or rubber of your machine. You don't want to do any damage or get it in any vents. So once it's stuck in place, again, taking only a few moments, I'm going to repeat to the other side, do the same thing until I have a good fit on both sides. Just as an aside, I'm using Titebond 3 because that's what I use all the time for its clamping, time frame, and safety. So there's a little bit of squeeze out, and I like to use this trick with a plastic straw. Just cut an angle on it and go along the corners, and it cleans it out really easily. Okay, so we have this part, but it's not stable enough. I wouldn't want that to be rocking and moving. So we want to attach pieces on the side to give it a little bit more stability. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this over here, put these pieces on to see how it works right here. I'm just going to try different places to see where it's going to work out. Now like that. Remember that one of the problems we have to account for here is being able to put this in and out. It's got to be able to go in and out of the stand. All right, so after a couple minutes of playing around, what I found out is that I can't support the sides of this the way I can with these types of sanders. Now you notice that this sits in here And once it's in, it's stable, okay? This is what we wanted with this one. For the new sander, got a little bit of rocking, but nothing serious. The shape of that one prevents this from happening. So what I decided to do is see if I can't use these wings as supports. So once I put this piece in, so let's try this. We're going to clamp these pieces in place. Make sure we can, oops. Let's see the way I put that in there. All right. Okay. Make sure you can pick this up, put it down in. All right, let's turn this on. All right, we have a bit of jumping around in there, but I think that's okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these off a little bit. I'm going to set this in here so it'll sit exactly underneath. All right, I cut these pieces down. I'm going to use the angle of this vent. I'm going to add a little bit of glue again. A little bit of the Instant Bond. See that it is instantly bonding. That's why we call it Instant Bond. Okay, I'll clean up the extra glue. Plywood edges are not great for gluing, same as hardwoods or softwoods. It sucks in the glue. What I should have done here, and what I would suggest to anyone else, add some glue, wipe it on and let it dry for a few seconds before you add your glue for real. Okay, I'm going to take these clamps off. They were on for a second. Now, we have all this done. Now you can see how well this works, especially for smaller pieces. If it's something that you're trying to work on, you don't want a big piece. You don't want to try and hold it while you sand it, especially with a Rotex like this that has rough sanding capabilities. So this is just a simple way to get those small pieces cleaned up, and then you can put this away when you're done. Okay, so we spent the time making this. Now, it's got a bit of an odd look. You might put some screws through this just to hold it in place. To make sure, put a hole here where you can hang it up. The whole purpose of this jig is to allow you to sand small pieces that you can't hold and can't sand otherwise. The tenoning jig is a simple jig that rides on the fence of your table saw and allows you to cut grooves on the ends of boards, either on the inside or outside, whatever works for you. It's very easy to make and it's customizable to your machine, but you need to know the width of your fence in order to make this. Okay, making this piece is really easy. The tenoning jig, there's 3 main pieces. This is 9 by 3.5 because that's the width of my fence. This is 5 by 3. And this one is 10.5 by 3. It's important that this is wide enough that when it slides on the fence, it doesn't tip over. You can make this so that the whole bottom part is replaceable, but the whole way to make this is actually relatively easy. There's 2 pocket screws here and 2 pocket screws there, and I have glue holding everything together. So let's get the pieces and I'll be right back. All right, so because none of these numbers are really written in stone, I cut 2 pieces, but then I looked at it and I decided I'm just going to make 1 piece from one of these. So this is 3.5 inches. To match the width of the fence, I'm going to do pocket holes here and here. That's my first step. All right, thinking about the holes, the first 2 are going to go onto the bottom of this piece because I won't be able to access that. And then once I attach it, I'll be able to put 2 holes into the top here. So this is not hugely important. I know that this piece is going to be a little bit small. So let's put some glue here. Always Titebond. Make sure this is at the top. Okay. As a bit of an aside here, these Bessie clamps are amazing. I love these trigger clamps. They release from the handle really quick and easy to use, and they have a strong grip. So if you haven't bought a pair yet, I highly recommend them. All right, and the second part is the fence. So we know that this piece is going to ride along the fence. And we want it to be at the right height. I don't want it to be all the way down because I don't want it to ride on the bench top, mess anything up. I'm going to bring it up just a hair above. And to use that, I'm just going to use a scrap piece of wood. All right, I just grabbed a small piece of 1/8 inch scrap wood that I just found laying around, put it underneath, and added my glue and clamped it in place. Now the important part here is that when you screw it, it isn't too tight. It needs to be able to move along the fence. It has to move freely so you don't have any issues. All right, final part is to attach this piece to allow you to clamp onto the tabletop, or clamp the piece to the fence. So we want it to go the same direction. Now, I'm going to use this magnetizer to help me hold my pieces on my drill bit. All right. Now, notice that this moves back and forth, so it's adjustable. As an aside, the placement of the toggle clamp is not really that important as long as it's not so low that when you cut through wood, you're going to cut through the screws holding it. That would be bad. All right, and we have our piece. Let's adjust this. And now back to the table saw for a trial run. You can see that the jig fits on the fence and slides freely. The toggle clamp needs to be adjusted to hold the piece firmly in place. If it pushes too hard, it will actually just push the bottom of the clamp out of the way. You can see how easily it slides, cuts the bottom piece, and you can now take that off and you have a nice tenoned piece. Okay, so here is the jig that we just used. Cut these, so we have a nice tenon. This is simple to make, easy to replace if you have to. If you want, you can cut off the end of this and replace it or leave it bare. It will get eaten up because you want something behind this. And our easy sanding dock. Thanks for watching.